The Dog and the Bone. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village nestled between green hills and a flowing river, there lived a scruffy brown dog named Rusty. Rusty was a stray dog who had no home, no family, and no master to feed him. Every day, he roamed the village streets, sniffing for scraps near the marketplace or hoping for kindness from the villagers. One bright morning, Rusty woke up under his favorite tree in the town square. His stomach growled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since the previous afternoon. Determined to find food, he trotted toward the butcher's shop, where the rich aroma of fresh meat filled the air. Rusty peeked through the wooden counter, watching as the butcher wrapped cuts of beef and pork for customers. Rusty licked his lips. If only he could get his paws on a juicy piece of meat. He watched carefully, waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, a plump piece of bone with a bit of meat clinging to it tumbled from the butcher's table and onto the dirt path. Rusty's eyes gleamed with excitement. He darted forward, snatching the bone in his jaws before the butcher could notice. With his prize secured, Rusty ran as fast as his legs could carry him. He dashed past the village huts, over a grassy field, and toward the edge of the riverbank. There, he could enjoy his bone in peace. He wagged his tail, proud of his cleverness and luck. As he reached the wooden bridge that spanned the river, he slowed down, panting from the run. The bridge creaked beneath his paws as he walked to the middle. The river below was calm, reflecting the blue sky like a mirror. Rusty, feeling safe, lowered his head to take a bite from the bone. But as he glanced at the water, he saw something that made him stop mid-chew. Staring back at him from the river was another dog, a dog holding an identical bone in its mouth. Rusty's ears perked up and his tail stiffened. The dog in the water had a bone just like his, but it looked even bigger and juicier. Greed stirred in Rusty's heart. I must have that bone too, he thought. If he could get the other bone, he would have two, and that would be even better. Without thinking, Rusty opened his mouth and barked at the reflection. And just like that, plop! His own bone slipped from his jaws and tumbled into the river. Rusty gasped, watching helplessly as it disappeared beneath the rippling water. He lunged forward, but it was too late. The bone was gone. The dog in the water vanished too, leaving only the gentle waves of the river. Rusty stood there, stunned. His prize, the meal he had fought for, was lost. All because he had wanted more. Please like and subscribe our channel. Rusty whimpered as he stared at the water, hoping the bone would magically float back to him. But the river had already swallowed it. His stomach growled again, reminding him of his foolishness. With a heavy heart, he turned away from the bridge and padded back toward the village. His tail drooped, and his ears hung low. He had been so close to a delicious meal, but his greed had cost him everything. As he walked back through the grassy fields, he heard a chuckle. It was old Max, the village's oldest dog, lying in the shade of a large oak tree. Max had seen many seasons and was wise beyond his years. "What's the matter, Rusty?" Max asked, his gruff voice filled with curiosity. Rusty sighed and sat down beside him. "I lost my bone," he admitted. "I had it. But then I saw another dog in the water with a bigger one. I wanted it, so I barked, and my bone fell in the river." Max chuckled again. "Ah, the dog in the water," he mused. "Tell me, Rusty, did you ever think that maybe there was no other dog?" Rusty blinked. "But I saw it. It was holding a bone just like mine." Max smiled knowingly. "What you saw was your own reflection. The river was like a mirror, showing you a picture of yourself. That bone you wanted, it was yours all along." Rusty's eyes widened as realization dawned upon him. So, I was barking at myself? Max nodded. And in your greed, you lost what you already had. Rusty lowered his head, feeling foolish. He had wasted a perfectly good meal chasing after something that was never real. I should have just been happy with what I had, he murmured. Max patted Rusty's back with his paw. That's a wise lesson, young one. Greed often blinds us. We chase after things we don't need and end up losing what we do have. Rusty sighed. His stomach still ached with hunger, but now he understood his mistake. He would have to find food again, but this time he would be wiser. Please like the video. Felix's ears perked up. His tired eyes widened with delight. Hanging from an old tree branch was a bundle of the most plump, round, and juicy grapes he had ever seen. They shimmered in the sunlight, as if calling out to him. The deep purple color told him just how ripe they were, and the faint scent of sweetness teased his nose. "Oh, finally," he exclaimed, his hunger momentarily replaced with excitement. His tail wagged, his heart pounded with joy. Felix licked his lips. These grapes would be the perfect meal. They were fresh, juicy, and all his. No hunting, no chasing, just a simple, easy feast. But there was just one small problem. The grapes were high, very high. Felix tilted his head back, squinting as he calculated the distance. The vine was hanging from an old, sturdy tree branch, far above his reach. There was no way he could simply pluck them off with his paws. But he was Felix, the cleverest fox in the forest. Surely he could figure this out. Taking a deep breath, he crouched low, tensed his muscles, and leaped into the air. His paws stretched out, his mouth opened, but he missed. He landed back on the ground, panting. The grapes remained untouched, mocking him from above. Felix blinked, surprised and frustrated. He hadn't expected this to be difficult. That was just a warm-up, he assured himself, shaking off the failure. I'll get them this time. He took a few steps back, wiggled his body like a cat about to pounce, and then leaped again, still too low. His paws scraped against thin air, and he crashed back onto the ground. His tail thumped against the dirt as he sat there staring at the grapes. His excitement had turned into frustration. "This is ridiculous," Felix growled. "How can something so simple be so hard?" His stomach rumbled louder, reminding him of his hunger. He was not going to let a bunch of grapes win. Felix narrowed his eyes, determination flaring inside.